Welcome to Golf Industry Guru and the Gig Podcast, where we interview the best and brightest golf and hospitality leaders on the planet. On today's episode, you will learn some proven real-world solutions that'll help you and your team solve some of your biggest golf business challenges. So stick around for some tips, tools, and training to get you, your people, and your business powered on. Here's your host, James Cronk.
Well, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome, Gig Nation. We have got a very special treat today. It is the first 19th hole with Matt Rolfe podcast, where we are going to delve deeply into the operations of clubs and find real solutions to real challenges. And I'm very excited to have another very special guest who's joining us today from Calgary and the entire team at Play Golf Calgary, Mr. Chris Herron. Chris, welcome to the 19th Hole podcast.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here.
And Matt, it is always a pleasure to see you and to hear you, at least. Welcome to your 19th Hole podcast, the first one.
Thank you so much. I see this, we've just finished a round of golf. You've had to witness me shoot 137, kind of irritated. We just may push you to a 5-hour round. But we might have chatted about some stuff in the cart that we really want to get into. We're sitting in the clubhouse now enjoying possibly a beverage and some food. And it's that little bit of space and time where you can go a bit deeper on that great connection that golf allows us to have. And the design of this conversation is to just share really where are we at as operators, what's ahead of us, what are the possible challenges or opportunities. And we're just going to facilitate a coaching call here to help Chris accelerate their success in 2022, because there was lots of success in past years, to say the least. But how does Chris have a conversation to accelerate his success in a format that the rest of us listening can learn from best practice sharing? We learn more from our peers than anybody else. If we can create a peer-based conversation, I can promise you it creates more value than any coaching that I can bring on my own to an organization. So we're going to have some fun with this. And Chris, I just really appreciate you stepping up and willing to allow us to have this conversation. And James is the leader. Keep us moving, my man. Keep the value going to Gig Nation.
You got it. You bet. And first of all, Chris, thank you so much for stepping up, as Matt said. You and I were chatting the other day and, grew up pretty close to each other. You said started in Milestones in British Columbia, and I've got a long track record of working at some great organizations. And even one of my favorite places, Shanks in Calgary, is on your resume. But maybe just start off and share with Matt and with ourselves, our listeners, Chris, a little bit about your role now and your overall responsibilities with Play Golf Calgary.
So I've been on with Play Golf Calgary going into my second season this year. It's a new role for Play Golf Calgary. So I'm director of food and beverage for their 4 courses. They were kind of run as separate entities, the 4 courses. Now they're looking at kind of getting a little more together on the courses, using our buying power a little bit more, being a little more consistent from course to course, and using our resources a little bit better through the 4 courses. So, like I said, it's a new role that they haven't had before. Last year, I spent learning the operations, getting some great feedback and background. Now it's time to learn from those, what I learned came through from last year, and see how we can advance it on this year.
Awesome. So Matt, I'll pass it off to you. And here you've got a fellow that, Play Golf Calgary, as everyone knows, is probably one of the most progressive organizations in our industry. Always learning, always challenging themselves, always getting better. Do a fantastic job in their market. So I'll leave it to you to chat with Chris about 2022 making it the best year ever.
Yeah, and I love the feedback. And as somebody who just moved from Calgary, obviously able to see what the courses are doing as a guest and hear friends there. I didn't get out as much as I wanted, but when I asked to go out, the courses came up. So there's a lot of buzz. But one thing that I always love to start a conversation out with is, Chris, what was your biggest win as a leader or as a team? What is something when it comes to the people side of your business that you're most proud of? And I know for people listening to this recording, this can be a hard question. So Chris might be able to answer this, so I'll give him a second. But you listening out there, I want you to also think about, what are you most proud of from last year? And if you can answer quickly, that's great. If it's a slow answer, that's great. It just tells us a little bit where we're at with being able to recognize the great happening around us, not just the operation or possibly the challenge. So Chris, for you, what's something that you're most proud of from 2021?
So coming on last year with Play Golf Calgary in the new role, I've been challenged with completing the experience. So on the food and beverage side, so we've got great golf courses. They're in fantastic shape. The weather's great. The course is great. We want to make that complete experience, and bringing that team together to finalize that great meal at the end, the great meal at the end of a tournament. It's not just the golf, it's the food and beverage that we can leave you with a positive experience with, and creating that all around day or event that we're looking for. So I think our team really bought into, finishing off the experience and putting a great product on the table at the end. So we've got great selection, we've got great food, but to be able to finish it off with the service, and service is free, and that's where we can really up our game. And with everything in the world becoming more expensive now, it's the service part that we can take our game to the next level and create that all-around experience.
Awesome. And I love that. And one thing that I want to take us in this conversation and those listening to is, often we can quickly, because the tactics, and they're clear, like as you're sharing, what I always say is people remember rich and vivid stories, but I can see the experience, like you're sharing in such a way that it makes a visual for me as a visual learner. But before you committed to going down the enhancement of the experience for your members or for your guests, what was the why? Like, out of all the things you could do, why commit to the change? Why commit to making it great now? What was the shift? Where you probably sat, 2020, started 2021 or maybe 2020 and said, we see a change here, we can get better. What was the reason why to double down the focus now?
Well, I think, and especially over COVID, golf is cool again. It's something that we're attracting new people to the industry, and we want to wow those people right out of the gate and have that great experience. So it's, at our courses, we've got the family experience as well. We're bringing up the new golfers. We're having opportunities for couples to play a lot more. So we're growing the business, and to be able to accommodate all of the family in the day or in the event has been fantastic. So, like I said, new people to the game can be a frustrating game to start off with, and frustrating game over the years. So we wanted them to have a positive way to end their day or to start their day, and take it on to the next level.
And that's one thing that I think is great for your team to go back to. So there's one thing that I always ask: Are we playing to win? Or are we playing not to lose? So right now, I think in the course business, club business, hospitality business, based on what we've gone through COVID, we're still trying to provide a good experience. We're trying to keep the four walls on based on, the staffing restrictions that we have or the short staff that we have in a lot of markets. But what I heard from you, Chris, there, it's like, hey, we're playing to win here. And that's like, we're playing to I'm not competing necessarily against you across the street, but what I'm hearing is that we're playing to win for us in our space. And what I love is, and it's not just, I'm not just here to pump Chris's tires. We're going to pull back some stuff here in a second, but he really understands the needs of what I call our guest or member avatar. So we talked about couples. So we have a couple's need is different than a corporate event. That's different from families. That's different from Gen Y, Gen Z golfer. But I think if we peel this back with Chris, there was a bit of conversation around the different needs. They are common and linked, but there are some different wants and needs from our different member guest avatar. And I think, if we went forward with this, we're going to be best in this area. We're not just going to do good. We're going to do great in our experience. And it's going to be at the front of our conversations as our four clubs consolidate. And then we're going to start to drill down and really get clear around what our guest, our member really wants. And I think there's a lot of power there. If that lands for anybody, we have some avatar worksheets, a simple one-pager that can help you work through that exercise. But I think when you hear what Chris shared, it is, once it's clear, the clarity follows, and then obviously the result follows. So if that recaps last year, which is really, really helpful for me, as we look forward to 2022, what's the one challenge or opportunity that's front of mind? It might be keeping you up at night, either because you're concerned or maybe you're just so excited based on, the amount of demand for golf is how do we wrap our arms around? How do we capture it and still keep that experience up? So based on your progress and success in 2021, what's top of mind heading into the core 2022 season?
Well, it's getting the confidence back in people in order to, express or be a part of the food and beverage experience in it. We've told people to stay outside for 2 years with COVID, and now we've got the opportunity to invite them back into our food and beverage, into the restaurants, into the lounges, into the banquet facilities. So let's, how are we going to do that, and how are we going to create that experience and that feeling of safety and feeling of comfort to come back in and be a part of it again. So creating that entire experience is the thing, and we're going to do that through our staffing and get our staff up and ready to go to be able to create that experience and recreate that experience every time that they come by.
And what could be often as an entrepreneur or somebody has a couple companies and leads a team myself, often we have blind spots that we can't see, but sometimes we have roadblocks that we can see that we just have to find a way to, rather than fight and climb over, that sometimes we have to go around. What, if we want to bring people back inside, have the full operation running around, what is going to get in the way most? Is it the member guest returning? Is it the staff to execute the volume? Is it the staff to provide the experience? If we kind of drill it down, if there's one thing that could be a roadblock that we can get around, but it's going to take anticipation, as if we're driving down a test course, you can see the yellow blocker there. If we see it, we can pivot and move around. But what's that one thing that could kind of get in the way that if we get ahead of and discuss and build a plan, we can get around it?
I honestly believe it's the staffing and getting the right people in to create that experience and getting people to buy into the concept that we're doing and buying into the ultimate guest experience and trying to create that ultimate guest experience each and every time that they come through one of our clubs. So getting the staff in, getting them trained properly, getting the right people in the right places to order to execute.
Yeah. And I was asked, and I appreciate, because this is a coaching conversation, so there is repetition intentionally by design. So if we're to focus on what's the real challenge here for you when we look at it, is it finding the staff? Or what I heard there that seemed to stand out a little bit more is how do I get them engaged, enrolled, and executing our service strategy or service vision? Like if there was the real problem, do we think it's going to be getting our capacities full, or is it going to be getting them to buy in? Because that's where we'll really kind of pare down the back half of this call is I'll share my insights of spending 20 years doing coaching, and we can go either the attract side, or we can really go on how do we get people enrolled in a service strategy?
I think it's getting people enrolled. We've missed people for 2 years that haven't come into this industry, and I think there's going to be people available. Now we've got to make sure that we've got the training and them buying into what we're trying to achieve in the end. So, like I said, it's getting people to engaged in the customer experience and engaged in their individual roles within the club.
Okay. I love that. And one thing I also have to do, the audience can't see us, but I can see Chris, so I'm giving him a virtual high five right now, because there's a lot of people out there saying we can't find staff. There are no staff. That isn't a system problem, meaning we can't attract them. That's a psychology problem. There's a block. And I say this respectfully because I have them in my own business as well, but there are enough staff in Calgary to operate hospitality venues or work at clubs or courses. But Chris has said, I will find them. So there's a belief there. He's actually stepped over that objection before it happens. There are people out there that I respectfully understand that are saying, I cannot staff my club, my course, my greens crew, whatever. They're just, this is what's going on in their head. But it's a leadership lesson from Chris there that objection has been emotionally removed from his language already and does not exist for him. There's huge power, but what there is how do I get them in and how do I get them to execute my service strategy, which that I think retention and execution and making sure that half of our students don't drop out in 12th of August when they're going back to school when they said they'd work till September 7th. So I've worked with a lot of courses where they're like, hey, we had a great crew, but They all went to Costa Rica early before they went back to school. So being a little dramatic for effect there. But tell me a little bit about the training program last year. On a scale of 0 to 10, how would you rate the delivery of your service experience last year? And I want, if there's anybody here listening from Chris's courses, I want you to hear it's no judgment of what we did. We had COVID, we had labor shortages, we had all these things. But on a scale of 0 to 10, how happy were you with your service delivery execution, knowing you're trying to be best in 2021?
We definitely had some challenges and learning. Like I said, we had quite a bit of returning staff in our 4 courses. We kind of see the 4-year cycle of staff of the university student as they work their way through the 4 years, and then they get their jobs in their own. So we're kind of constantly rolling our way through staff. I think there's an opportunity in our training aspects in order to so that everybody knows and is on the same page, knows where the challenges are and where to ask the answers for the challenges, so that we're all working together as a team. So, like I said, we had some great people, we had some great management, but I think there is an opportunity in our training. There are some gaps in our training that we need to fill in this year in order to everybody to understand what we're doing. And if you don't understand what you're doing, then you're not going to execute it. Everybody's got to understand why we're doing it in the beginning, and then they buy in and head off to the next level.
Awesome. And I just want the audience to know we haven't framed this, so we haven't discussed this. So this is live coaching. So we're going to go a little bit of a different direction. So I'm going to share 3 steps that I would take, just as you shared. From my experience, the bulk of my work is on leadership and people, but we focus aggressively on attracting and retaining. And also recognition and reward is really how, because that's how we get people doing the right behaviors on a consistent basis. But one of the major things that I've learned as we continue to transition up and down through a pandemic, as we bring our staff back, is to make sure that we don't just launch into ops. Because a lot of people have gone through things, not even if it's seasonal workers coming back, they've gone through life experiences that have been challenged. So I say that COVID was like open heart surgery. When COVID came about, it was like getting diagnosed with an issue with our heart. And the closure of our industry was the physical surgery, where they cracked open our ribs. They did invasive surgery. It's when our clubs were closed and we had these challenges. We didn't know where staff were going back, or we had restrictions that we were trying to manage through. But now we've reopened. So our industry is thriving. So they've stitched us back up. They've closed our ribs, and we have these stitches, and we're walking around with these stitches. But if anybody's had stitches or surgery, knows that they're there and you're moving again, but you haven't necessarily healed. So the first step that I encourage us to do as our staff come back is to sit and facilitate a conversation, to share, what we've just gone through, what we learned, and to create space and time for them to share. Because one thing, if we go right into ops, we could step over what they're carrying, and they could be carrying around. My partner has been laid off, and we have an issue supporting our kids right now. I'm not going to make rent because of this. I had that trip planned in September. I want to pay for school. And my father got laid off, or my mother got laid off. So all of these factors. But if we want to interrupt the pattern and change the feel for the staff to say we're in this together, is to facilitate a conversation. And it's easy, and we can share the process for it. But just to share, it's been hard on us. Here's some examples. It's been hard on me as the leader. I was just on a call, and I said, there's been times, as successful our business is, there were times during the pandemic that we were close to deciding to close one of the companies. And I could keep that behind closed doors. And I was really thrilled that we didn't. But it was so hard and cash. But we share that with our team to say, we're real. So we kind of show up in this human way. So then we can say, okay, now that we're connected again and create space, COVID took away community and connection. Our job as leaders is to put it back in place. And we don't need parties and stuff or big gifts, but just time. It could be short bursts of time because it's been taken away from us. So the first step that I would do would be that reconnection meeting. And it's something that a lot of people say, I don't have time. Our staff come back March 28th and the course opens April 7th. So how are we going to do that when they have to get trained and they need to learn how to serve, not how to connect as humans? But if we're going to ask them to connect with our member guests as humans, we should take the time to do it ourselves. And that's just my feel. But Chris, is there anything you hear in that is there anything that relates to experience, or how that might look for your team, or how does that sound to you?
No, that sounds great for me. Keeping it personal and realizing that we're just not, the management team. You're not just the service team or the, whatever team you're involved with, that we're all in this together, and we've all gone through a rough time. And now how are we going to dig ourselves out as a group together? And, I care about every individual that works with us. Not just, you showed up to your shift, you did your job, you got out. How are we going to make it so that we can, be a little more personal with the staff and be able to get, understand stories from the staff. I like touching base with as many staff as I can during the day, whether that's someone working the bev cart or is that someone working in the kitchen, just to touch base to say, hey, how are you doing today? What can we do to make it your day better? What can we make your employment experience here better? And that's, I think, we're going to retain some people through the end of the year when I can talk to them on a personal level. So, and whether that's sharing a story from my person or whatever they're comfortable sharing with me, if they're opening up a little bit, it creates a bond and it creates a better team in the end.
And for all the leaders out there, I've had a chance every year to do hundreds of discovery calls. So with staff and managers inside of your operations, and the number one thing that they consistently request more of or crave more of is time with the leaders. And they're not asking to I need a one-on-one every day or even once a week, but they really do deeply respect present time. And I know my job as a coach is really what I do is I study body language. And I hope that you guys heard that through your headphones. But Chris, he had an emotional reaction, right? That's real. I've met Chris right now. I want time at Chris's. I want to spend more time with him. I want to learn from him. He's a strong leader. He cares. I can see the physical cues, although the audience can't. And that's real. And just decide, and it's just a show. And you see how much he cares deeply about his people. Just one thing is offered is let's not step over that. Let's not care about them, but not make sure that they have to know about it. Because there's a lot of these leaders out there that care passionately about their people, but the people don't know just how much they care because the perception of you as a leader is you're busy. It's my biggest fault, and James knows this. Everyone's like, Matt, you're so busy. I'm like, I am, but that's a problem of mine. I need to change that perception because I'm never too busy to spend time with my people or my clients. So the next thing for the opt-minded people are like, this all sounds great. That's all fluffy. That's like, let's get to the nuts and bolts of this. So let's talk about the service strategy design. We've spent a lot of time on service strategy design, and I've went into, this comes from my days at Labatt, breweries or Anheuser-Busch where I worked, where there was steps to a sales call. And if we were to go back 10 years ago, we would have steps to a sales call, which are basically the same as service steps or execution steps in the kitchen. And there would be 6, 8, 12, 18 steps because we had to do all of this stuff and things. And Chris said earlier is how do we make the execution of our service strategy simple? And what we do with most of our clients, and we've worked with some of the biggest restaurant operators or hospitality-based businesses in North America, is we break the strategy down into 3 steps. And it's basically the first interaction, and we can provide worksheets for this, but and there are other executional steps, but when it comes to defining the experience, and this could be from the bag drop to the pro shop to the table. You can put this across the entire club. The people who really coined this were Disney. And I won't get into that now, but there was a Disney university that would coach this out years ago. And it's how they created all the remarkable and memorable experiences on their properties. But essentially, what is the one must-do thing that we're looking to greet every single member guest? So when they come and arrive into the clubhouse, when they come to arrive to the bag drop, what are we looking to do? Then what's the one thing that defines what the middle of the expectation is? And then what's one thing that defines how we finish? I'll give you an example outside of your space. In a quick service space, one of our clients I was just talking to him this morning. So they have a large quick service pizza location, about 150 stores, very quickly scaling. And how we define it was welcome. So we have a definition of how do they welcome each guest, and we have steps for that. Then we have wow. How do they wow each of their guests? And then we have simple steps and execution. So what does it look like on the floor of their quick service locations? And then they have chow. So chow is in all their marketing, all their statements. So it's welcome, wow, chow. Every single person knows what that means, why it's important to them and why it's important to us. And then how do we execute? But it fits on a single page. We built some really sexy service strategies we can share with you as well. But I would ask everybody here should be able to draw their service strategy in the interview on the back of a napkin, should you choose to. Overly simple 2-minute elevator pitch on that. And Chris, part of this isn't also to agree. You might say, Matt, I disagree with that, or it's too simple, or how do you feel about that? Because just as I saw the visual cues on the emotional there, I can see you processing that, and there might be a bit of resistance towards it, which is good. That's why we're here.
Well, I come back from the background of my milestones days, and they had it broken down to a care card, and that was a create, anticipate, initiate, and recreate. There are 4 steps of going through the service pattern. So similar to what you're going, but just tweaked a little differently. So,
and just so, how long ago did you work at Milestones?
It was 20 years ago, so a while ago.
Yeah. Okay. So we look at the brand.
It's still the same service pattern that they've proven year after year after year, and it works. And I can still see the suggestive sell and the green cards on the tables to this day.
What was your favorite care experience that you got to witness at a Milestone? What when you saw care show up? And it's just one of those things. There's always the kind of the one that sticks in the head that we did care, we killed it on this, or did crush it, and it looked like this.
Well, I really think it comes down to the building of our regular base, and I worked in the bar management side of that, and we're creating that atmosphere that created the welcome for the people to come on down, whether that's by yourself or with your family, to come and sit at the bar before your dining experience. If it was someone that we knew, coming down from another restaurant, coming down from, we could have something in advance as I've seen you come in the front door, whether that's your drink, knowing what your drink was. We're going to anticipate any of your needs that if you're moving over to a table and start you off in that dining spot. And then we want to recreate it every single time that you came in the restaurant. So, that just builds up our regular base, and we ended up having a great regular base at Milestones in West Van that my wife and I both worked at. So,
yeah, and it's an amazing story. So if we 20 years ago worked for one of the most progressive restaurant groups in North America at the time, still is, and you had a lot of West Coast presence with the Fuller family restaurants and Milestones, but you see there was this commitment. So there was a simple acronym that to this day, Chris can share exactly what it looked like. And and sometimes when we get into our operations, we continue and James knows this. He's like, Matt, you overcomplicate stuff all the time. You just got to simply down for our conversations, Matt. But the same thing is there's lots of opportunity, but if we could get that care card, if we could get what we call just what are our three service steps. And then there's the examples of how it shows up on your floor, how it shows up at your bag drop or in your pro shop. We'll get there next. Don't worry. We'll get the detail. But if we had that and we communicate it consistently, and then we move on to our third step that'll close out this call. Once we have clarity on the expectation, then we can build a recognition-based culture. And I think the days of, bringing 1,000 golfer event through or 200 golfer event through, or having a packed Saturday and we had 5 service errors, and we focus on the service errors, those days are done. Really what we need to move towards, especially as we integrate Generation Y and Generation Z, and I don't want us to knock them. They're the most empowered generations we've ever had a chance to work with, but they want to have verbal recognition, which as Chris said, is free. Once they do great. And my judgment is, and people come across say, Matt, it's not genuine if you do it this way. I think recognition should be a process. We talked to a company who's managing where there's McDonald's and Burger King were the two conversations yesterday. And we built the same strategy out with McDonald's and Burger King for the US. Something we're proposing. It's just, what are the 3 things that your managers are doing to recognize your people today? So I would put a scorecard on the manager, not on the staff. And if it was Chris going to meet with his clubhouse manager, bar manager, clubhouse manager, GM, whatever the structure is, banquet manager, who are the 3 people you've recognized today or this week? And the compound impact, you have tighter seasons. For some of you have tighter seasons. So that's why I'm asking for, maybe it's 1 a day. And what I would ask is, who have you recognized for what? How did it make them feel? And how did it make you feel? Because the one thing that we're going to coach into the leaders, if we can show them how it made them feel, they get as much of a positive response recognizing somebody as the person receiving. So if we can ask that, and based on, if this is how we're trying to coach a service strategy in our management meetings, and I really do hope everyone, I know you're busy, but we still need to keep communicating. I would have as the first thing, who did we recognize this week for what? And if people are going to introduce themselves or provide an update, for the first month of the season, if service is your expectation or culture, they would actually kick off the meeting to be, I recognize Sally, and I don't know a Sally, but I always use that as an example. So I recognize Sally for X. It was awesome. Here's how she reacted. And then you know what? Here's how I felt. And if somebody skips over the I felt, you got to hold them there. So I appreciate, oh, it was good. No, really, how did it make you feel? Again, we lost community and connection through COVID. Then your industry got put into the biggest pressure cooker, probably like go from shutdown to everybody wants to golf, more capacity, more demands, 4 generations into your clubs, all have different expectations, end. And with that, we just want to make sure that we take the time to recognize the incredible effort that our people put in. And if we do follow those steps, so don't step over it, focus on a simple service strategy, and then focus on recognition and reward. I know we're going quick here. We'll supply some follow-up to this. I know Chris is going to have a great season this year, but if he takes 2 or 3 points and just doubles down or adds it to his great plan for this year, it's going to be even better than 2021.
Okay.
Chris, so what resonated with you, Chris, that in those 3 areas there? Was there something that resonated with you that you think is the greatest opportunity for you, or share with me what your thoughts are?
I think for me, and my job involves 5 different courses. The 4 main courses are Little Devil as well. Simpling it down, and creating, instead of going into the 20 service steps, let's create the overall feel and the overall team buy-in and make it simple. And once you try and complicate it too much, and I multiply that by 4, it goes too much. So let's focus on that, the 3 points, the 4 points that we're doing. Then we can break it down once we have the time to break it down. But overall, let's focus on simplifying it and how we can make that great experience. You can break that down into your service strategies that are tight and quick to the point, and everybody understands them. If you overcomplicate it, you're getting out of your way and too far away from your ultimate goal in the end.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's great. Do you have any questions for Matt?
No, I appreciate the feedback, and it's nice to hear another point of view. And sometimes we get, too focused on our own courses and our own businesses and stuff. It's nice to share with someone else and get some different point of views. And you gotta reach outside your box and get some different points of views and some different techniques. I've been doing it a long time, but it's nice to hear some new positive and new techniques to deal with. You're always learning.
And I think that's a great place to close. So those listening, if you felt resistance towards some of what I shared, meaning that won't work for you, just pay attention to the resistance. I'm not right. My coaching approach is not right. There is no right way to lead your staff or build your service strategy. I'm just bringing tested experience forward to you. If you have resistance towards an idea, there's usually something there. And it usually has nothing to do with me, but there's something that's a block. I agree with Chris that it is the simplicity of execution. I encourage you to find what's one retailer, one experience that you absolutely love. So if it's a restaurant, if it's Starbucks or Apple or Home Depot comes up a lot for some reason for people who love Home Depot. But if you really step back and look at whatever you think is a great experience and just try to deconstruct it. And I think when you do, from the most influential operators, you'll find simplicity of execution. And I just want to close on this because I'm a cheesy person. One thing I know is Chris cares. Back to the milestone side, there's a care mentality. He's got a great strategy. He's grounded, and I'm excited to see what you do with your team. I look forward to talking offline, and I hope that this conversation brings values to Gig Nation. Thank you, as always, James, for allowing me to talk, and let me know if you have any questions or how you'd like to wrap today.
Well, that's awesome, Matt. No, I mean, first of all, Chris, thank you for sharing. Thank you for coming on board, and you've got a great operation, I know, and always getting better and better. That's one of the things I love about Play Golf Calgary and about there's a reason why you're on that team is because that team is always striving to find ways to be better. And that's a great thing in any business, in any industry. And Matt, no, just always some great insight. There's lots of other resources. There'll be some more resources coming that we'll be announcing soon with with Matt and with Golf Industry Guru. So what a great 19th hole. Yes, it's the 19th hole, and we're going to pretend that we're sitting around the patio. There's no snow on the ground. You're right. We all just broke 100, and we look forward to doing it again. So thank you both. Have a wonderful rest of your afternoon, evening, and next time, Matt, we'll see you on the 19th hole.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for listening to the Gig Podcast. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and mostly that you learned a few things that will help you improve your business. Join us next time as we continue to bring you the best and brightest golf and hospitality leaders on the planet. Thanks for listening.